This is part 2 of our interview with Craig Foster. So how many years into owning Skinworks and being in Carrollton were you contacted by Ink Masters?
So I came out here in 2005, and I want to say, Ink Master was like maybe 10 or 9 years ago. Probably been here like right at 10 years, right when Ink Master contacted me the first time.
And it was pretty funny to see you because you've always had like really cool hair. I'm going to say like Coolio type hair. You've had some wild and crazy shit like The Weeknd. Somehow he would wear his hair all crazy. But like
that hair was awful on the show.
So they took Craig, who had this real funky style, and they'd put him in like a pink shirt and they would straighten his hair like he was a pimp. And you'd be sitting there like, what the fuck are you wearing?
I think my favorite meme was if Ice Cube and Cat Williams had a baby.
It would be you.
It was a picture of me.
Right.
Like, that's fucked up.
That's fucked up, right? So being on that show, it was great exposure. But I mean, like, they were being judged. You were being judged by, in my opinion, people that weren't tattoo artists, or they were shit tattoo artists, but they were celebrity tattoo artists is what they coined them to be.
I mean, I'll go out on a limb and say that Chris Nunez was definitely a decent, talented tattoo artist, but Dave Navarro obviously is not a tattoo artist. He's a musician, but I think his place on the show as a judge was the untrained eye opinion.
Gotcha.
So he was like a wild card. Like basically it was like person that was just like everyone else, how they would vote on something, which I get it.
And you're banging Carmen Electra, right? You get the untrained eye.
You never brought that up to Dave Navarro. Dave was actually the coolest one out of all of them.
But why wouldn't you bring that up to Dave Navarro?
I was just told numerous times, do not bring it up.
Was he married to her at the time?
No, they were totally separated.
Oh, it was a sensitive subject.
Yeah, it was definitely sensitive.
Don't look Dave in the eye. Don't look him in the eye.
I never fucked with him on that, but what's his name? Oliver Peck was an asshole.
Yeah, that dude was a prick, and I hated that motherfucker. But you were definitely one of the most talented people on there, but it was strictly a political fucking thing, right? I mean, like, they were the drama that they were trying to get. But, I mean, you give me the details, because behind the scenes...
I mean, it's a TV show, so, like, when you watch it, as a tattoo artist, you put yourself in the position of the tattoo artist that you're watching it, and you kind of tell yourself what you would have done in the situation. So, it was, like, interesting to watch the show, but then to be on the show and to learn that the whole purpose of the show, and this kind of sums it up, it's just to sell commercials. You don't really get that they care as much about the industry as much as their responsibility to sell commercials for the network, which would be at the time Spike Television. And I get it, but like going into it, it was really challenging to learn that it wasn't about us.
Right.
Like we're just kind of tools. And they're giving us opportunities to expand our careers, but we have to jump through their hoops so that they can sell commercials.
Right.
But I mean, they're legitimate. I mean, what you're seeing is real. I mean, they are all about tears. They love tears.
Didn't they? You had told me that they tried to get you to have conflict or, have issues with people, but you were like, no, you're not going to fucking spin that shit on me. Like,
well, I've always had authority issues all the time. So if I feel like I'm being manipulated at any point in time, then I just immediately go into rogue mode where I try to fuck it up.
Right.
But they use the canvases as tools to get you to talk about subjects that they want you to talk about. And unfortunately, the first time I was on the show, those subjects were kind of off limits because in my head, like, I'm just going to go there. I'm just going to tattoo. I'm not going to get in any kind of shit. I'm not going to be all dramatic. I want to basically show artistry and show the side of tattooing that I'm proud of.
Right.
Which is, to me, like a great tattoo artist would probably never tell you that he's a great tattoo artist, if that makes sense.
Right. Just like a badass who's like can fight and kick your ass is probably not the one that goes, I'm the badass.
Right. You would basically end up getting your ass whooped if you try the guy that just doesn't talk about whooping ass.
Right. Exactly.
And that's, to me, it's more special. But that was like my placement on the show. Like, that's, to me, this is who I'm going to be on the show. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to do anything. But unfortunately, that wasn't what the show's about. The show
wants that.
They need drama. They need storylines. But I wasn't there for that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I was eliminated the season 3. But I don't think that they understood that my quiet position on the show would become a character.
Right.
Exactly. Which it did.
Right, exactly. It's awesome. And it's awesome that you were able to despite their efforts, carve out a character for yourself. Speaking of whooping ass, you have a story that you told me the other day. And Ben, I need you to focus on this because this is a monumental...
I'm focused.
This is great. And then we will move on to the end of our finishing segment that we have to do. So, Craig, someone came into your shop the other day very abruptly. Now, to paint a picture, when you are back there, and Ben, you've been there, you're back in the studio in his little office. It's like this main area, but in the back. And he's got cameras so he can see, it goes ding, ding, and he can see everybody that walks in the door. Craig, I believe you were in your studio and you watched this white dude walk in the door. And
I just got done with a tattoo. So I just look at the camera and I see this kind of country thug come walking into the door. But
they're the worst.
Literally, as he walks into the door, like hadn't even shut the door yet, he screams out hello, like a very impatient hello.
Right.
Which kind of put me in a defensive position as soon as he walked through the door.
Right.
So I basically walked out casually and I kind of looked at him, and as soon as I saw him, I could see that the kid was kind of like daytime intoxicated, and he just immediately just starts telling me like an idea, like, oh, this is why I want to get tattooed, and just started saying it. So I cut him off while he's explaining it and said, you can't get tattooed today. I didn't do it in a dick way. Like, basically, I'm saying it because he's drunk.
Right.
But I'm just making clear, there's no need for you to explain what you want.
You don't need to speak anymore. Right.
Yeah, so he just kind of looks at me, squares up, and he's just like, well, shit, you guys are booked up. And I'm like, yeah, we're booked up. And then he just kind of turns and he says something under his breath and then slams the door and walks out. So I'm sitting there and I go to the window and I see there's another group of people, maybe 5 other people that are on their way coming into the shop, and he kind of cuts them off. They're fucking booked up, fuck them, let's go to another shop. And so I go to my other guy's room that's literally facing the same side, and I peek out the window and I see them all out there talking. So I'm explaining to my employee what just happened. And while I'm explaining it, the guy who I told can't get a tattoo, he breaks off from the group and goes into the back of the studio. And so when I see him walk back there, I'm like, well, where the fuck is he going? So I go walking to the back and I look out my back window and he's just in the back of my studio peeing. And so now I'm just okay, I'm gonna fuck with him. I'm already pissed off at him, so I'm gonna fuck with him now. So I open the door and I yell down to him hey, you can't fucking do that here. And he turns around, pants still open, he literally just cut off the pee, but he still has his stuff out. And he's like, well, where am I supposed to do it? And I'm like, well, not fucking here. Fucking go somewhere else and fucking do it. And then he just says something under his breath, and I'm like, what'd you say? And he's like, nothing, man, I gotta call somebody to come get me. And I'm like, well, go somewhere else and call him. And he's like, all right, I'm going. I'm like, hurry up, get the fuck off my property. And so as he's walking, he's on the phone and he's saying, kind of explaining that he's being kicked off the property and they need to come get him. And he's literally calling the people that are in front of the shop, which he could have just easily walked back up to the front of the shop
and been like, hey guys, we got to go.
Right. But he's walking off to the side of the shop and calling them. So as they come walking, and then I guess all the people pile in the car and one guy's walking on foot. The guy comes right below me that he's talking to on the phone, and the guy says something we're coming. He's like, yeah, shut up, dude. And he just looks up and he sees him standing there and he's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, no worries, man. Just get him the fuck out of here before he gets himself in trouble. And the guy's like, oh, we're getting him. Don't worry. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And as soon as he says that, the guy turns around and screams out the N-word. Yeah, effing ninja. But I'm not going to say the actual word that he said. Unfortunately, I have zero tolerance for that fucking word at all. I mean, I'm 52 years old, so that's just bullshit. I have to black out for a minute and teach a lesson.
So
I'm not
secretly, were you yes?
No, it literally,
yes.
I mean, honestly, as soon as he said it, it's I just saw stars. I remember just my feet were already running down the steps. The guy he was talking to on the phone literally just got out the way because he heard it too. And I just start running. I'm full-fledged, heels kicking my ass, running as fast as I can, running at the kid. And the kid's just casually just walking, but I think he heard my running angry footsteps. And he turned around to see me literally peeling rubber at him. And he starts backing away. But he had this fucking smile on his face, it was funny. And I definitely wasn't running to him to tell him a joke. I'm literally running at him I'm gonna fuck you up. And as I run up on him, I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? And he's just oh, come on, man. It's cool. I'm it ain't. what the fuck did you just say? And then before I could even say it again, my right hand just swings and I just like the hardest slap to this kid's face. The silly thing was I hit him so hard that he somersaulted to the side. Like his head hit the ground and his feet were placed where his head was. He looked like he was breakdancing. He hit the ground so hard.
Oh my God.
That was a Will Smith slap.
The visual of him hitting the ground, it made all of my anger go away. Like I was not angry anymore. Like it was more funny. And he screamed too. Like there was like an assault scream that he like let out. Yeah, it was like a, you know,
like a
like
hurt
it was,
animal.
Yeah. Well,
like, yeah, I couldn't be mad at him anymore.
you're forgiven, and I feel great.
But immediately as I clear anger and I'm not angry anymore, I remember just kind of scanning the area and there's a doctor behind my studio. It's called Meg Clinic and his name's Dr. Brent Harris. And Dr. Brent is working on his gardening in front of his place and he's like literally planting something, but as soon as I meet eyes with him, he's like literally staring right at me. Like, he watched the whole thing. And I remember it's a doctor, you know, like I'm friends with the guy. Like I talk to him all the time. So immediately to clear up that I just slapped somebody, I basically just gave him this casual hello.
Hey!
And I just walked away like nothing happened. Like I just like walked back towards the studio and I basically had to pass up this kid's friends. And they're like apologizing as I'm walking by just in case I was going to slap them too. And I'm like, it's funny. It's cool. I was like, he just paid for it. He just got slapped. They're like, we're so sorry. I'm like, don't worry about that. He just got slapped.
That's funny.
So as I walk inside the studio, Brent calls me and I'm like, pick up the phone. I'm like, Skinworks. And he's like, hey, Craig. Like, hey, how you doing, Brent?
What was that?
He's like, you know, he's like, I could have sworn I heard someone yell the N-word. Mm-hmm. And before I could even look up, you appeared like a genie. You were like screaming at this kid, what did you just say? So you kind of confirmed I heard correctly what I heard. And then before I even knew it, you were slapping the shit out of me. He's like, man, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I've never seen a slap so good.
Just teaching lessons one at a time. So you can't say that word in front of me. I was like, I cannot take responsibility for slapping that kid because he said the N-word. I can't help it.
Hey, Craig, that is an amazing story.